Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a play. It took just one preseason game for the Washington Commanders' most glaring flaw to re-emerge, and it happened under the bright lights of Gillette Stadium against the New England Patriots. Fans who had spent the offseason cautiously optimistic after the front office brought in some big names are suddenly back to chewing their fingernails. The Von Miller signing by GM Adam Peters had been the big headline, a move that was supposed to quiet the noise about the lack of proven edge rushers. For a while, it worked. The idea was simple. Pair Miller with the relentless Frankie Louvu, the consistent Dorrance Armstrong Jr., and the intriguing second-year Javonte Jean-Baptiste. And you've got a fearsome rotation. But here's the kicker. None of them suited up. And without that quartet, Washington's edge attack was toothless, exposing just how thin the depth chart is once you peel back the first layer of talent. What happened on the field was almost a case study in how quickly depth concerns can turn into panic alarms. The Commanders tried to make it work with what they had, giving free agent signing Jacob Martin the starting nod opposite Clelin Ferrell. Martin was supposed to be the steady backup type, the guy who could fill in when needed without the whole unit collapsing, but the performance was underwhelming at best. As the game wore on, we saw Andre Jones Jr. and TJ Maguranyanga get their turns, both young, hungry players trying to prove they belong. Jalen Holmes even slid outside for some reps. And there were moments when undersized athletes like Tyler Owens and Kane Medrano were asked to crash the edge. The result? A grand total of 2 meaningful pressures from the edge all night, neither resulting in a sack. It was like watching a door with a broken hinge, easy to get through and offering little resistance. One of the biggest takeaways, and perhaps the most concerning, was just how dependent the Commanders seemed on their interior defensive line for any kind of disruption. The only sack of the game came courtesy of rookie Johnny Newton, who bullied his way inside to bring down the Patriots quarterback in the first quarter. Jacob Martin happened to be in the right place to recover. The fumble, but let's be honest. Without that inside collapse, there's no turnover. This trend played out over 4 quarters. The inside guys, Sheldon Day, Newton, and the rotating tackles, were doing the heavy lifting, while the outside rushers were essentially non-factors. When your edge players are supposed to be your speed threats and they can't even force a hurried throw, that's a problem. Not a small problem either. It's the kind of issue that defensive coordinators lose sleep over. Because in today's NFL, if you can't set the edge and pressure the quarterback, you're playing with fire every snap. Of course, the easy counterpoint is that Miller, Louvu, Armstrong Jr., and Jean-Baptiste weren't even in uniform. And that's fair. These are the guys who will take the majority of edge snaps once the regular season begins. But preseason isn't just about the starters. It's about finding out what you have behind them, the depth players who can keep the defense from collapsing if injuries strike. And injuries always strike. That's why this performance matters. Martin's night wasn't inspiring. Jones Jr. flashed once with a slick inside move. Holmes once with a nice stunt in tandem with Sheldon Day. Beyond that, crickets. The fact that no one seemed eager to seize this opportunity is troubling. In football, the leap from practice to game speed is huge. And for many of these guys, the gap looked more like a canyon. That's not what you want to see this close to the season. This is where it gets tricky for the Commanders' coaching staff. On one hand, they don't want to overreact to a preseason game where the top pass rushers didn't even play. On the other hand, depth is not something you can fake. You either have it or you don't, and right now it's looking a little shaky. Defensive line coach Ryan Kerrigan is going to have his work cut out for him over the next few weeks trying to squeeze production out of the second and third stringers. The ideal scenario is finding that one young player who surprises everyone. Someone who can log 20 snaps a game without a massive drop-off in performance. But here's the reality check. It's mid-August, and no one has separated themselves. The window to make an impression is closing fast, and the defensive front's supporting cast is still very much a mystery heading into week 1. It's also worth noting that relying too heavily on the starting edge, rushers can have long-term consequences. Over a 17-game season, fatigue is a silent killer. Even elite players lose a step if they're logging 80 to 90% of snaps every week. That's why depth is more than just an insurance policy. It's a performance enhancer for your stars. Fresh legs in the fourth quarter can mean the difference between closing out a game and watching a lead slip away. The Commanders' current situation makes that fresh legs advantage unlikely unless someone from the bench steps up. The coaches can mix and match, scheme around weaknesses, and rely on the interior to generate pressure, but sooner or later, they'll need someone on the outside to win a one-on-one battle without help. Until that happens, Washington's edge defense will remain a looming question mark. From a fan perspective, it's frustrating. The offseason had been building toward optimism, with the defense expected to be a cornerstone of this team's identity. The Von Miller signing was the cherry on top, a future Hall of Famer brought in to teach, to mentor, and to still produce in key moments. Pairing him with aggressive playmakers like Louisville and Armstrong was supposed to turn the edge into a strength. Not a concern, but preseason has a way of peeling back the hype and showing you the cracks in the foundation. This game did exactly that. It's not about the scoreboard, it's about the tape. And the tape tells a story of a unit that once you strip away, its top layer loses its bite. Fans are right to wonder whether this defense can survive the grind of an NFL season without more help on the edge. If there's a silver lining here, it's that the problem is fixable, at least in theory. NFL rosters aren't set in stone yet. Cuts are coming across the league, and smart front offices find contributors in late August all the time. The Commanders could scour the waiver wire, look for trade opportunities, or even bring in veteran free agents who are still waiting for the phone to ring. Sometimes it's not about landing a star, it's about finding the right role player who fits the system. The challenge, of course, is timing. Every team wants competent edge depth, and the competition will be fierce. Adam Peters and his staff have to decide quickly whether this was just a bad night for the backups or a flashing red warning sign that demands immediate action before the season starts. Ultimately, the first preseason game didn't tell us much about the Commanders' starting edge rushers, but it told us a lot about everyone behind them, and that's the point of preseason. You want to see the guys fighting for roster spots flash enough to justify a role. You want your depth pieces to push the starters, to give the coaching staff options. Instead, Washington got a reminder of how thin the margin can be when your second string can't deliver. The hand-wringing that disappeared after Von Miller's signing is back. And it's louder now because the evidence is right there on film. In a league where quarterback play decides games, pass rush depth is not a luxury. It's a necessity. If the Commanders can't find it, they may be relying on hope. And hope is not a defensive strategy. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. There's a storm brewing in the NFL world right now, folks. And it's all centered around a name that Washington fans know all too well. Chase Young. That's right, the prodigal pass rusher, the 2020 Defensive Rookie of the Year, might just be making a sensational return to the nation's capital. After a whirlwind set of phone calls, late-night negotiations, and a mysterious leak on social media, multiple sources are whispering that the Commanders have pulled off a lightning-fast trade to bring Young back to Washington. We're talking about a move that seemingly came out of nowhere. One minute, he's suiting up for another team. The next, insiders are claiming his locker in D.C. is being prepped. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but the buzz around this is deafening. And if it's true, it could flip the entire NFC East conversation on its head this season. The interesting part of this whole situation is the timing. The Commanders are in a transitional phase, fresh coaching philosophies mixing with some front office adjustments, and suddenly the idea of bringing back a franchise cornerstone is on the table. Think about it. This isn't just any player. We're talking about this is Chase Young, a defensive wrecking ball when healthy, a player who can change the momentum of a game with a single burst off the edge. People are asking why now? What's driving this urgency? Well, some insiders are hinting at behind-the-scenes pressure from the fan base. Others are pointing to a certain defensive scheme tweak that could suit Young perfectly. And there's the emotional element too. Washington never quite wanted to see him go. Maybe they saw enough elsewhere to convince themselves he still belongs here. Whatever the reason, this move feels as much about symbolism as it does about sacks and tackles for loss. Of course, the rumor mill is spinning so fast you can almost hear it. Reports, some credible, others suspiciously vague, are suggesting the trade talks happened in less than 48 hours. That's right, less than 2 days from initial contact to a supposed handshake deal. In NFL terms, that's lightning speed. One unnamed source told a local reporter it was one of those "are you serious" moments. Then, before we knew it, the papers were being drawn up. If you follow the league, you know that these quick-trigger deals usually happen when one side is desperate and the other sees an opening. Was Washington desperate for an injection of star power? Was Young's current team eager to offload a player before potential contract headaches? The truth might be a blend of both, wrapped in that unpredictable chaos that makes NFL trades so intoxicating. And now fans are refreshing their feeds every 5 seconds, waiting for that official team post. If this all checks out, the implications are massive. First off, Washington's defense instantly becomes scarier. With Young on one end and their current stable of pass rushers on the other, offensive lines across the NFC East might as well start sweating now. Second, it sends a message to fans, to rivals, and maybe even to the locker room that the Commanders aren't content to just rebuild slowly. This is an aggressive statement of intent. Third, it adds a layer of drama to every single Washington game this year. Imagine the first time they face a divisional opponent with Young back in the fold. The crowd noise, the headlines, the emotional stakes. This isn't just a roster move, it's a storyline injection straight into the veins of the season. And let's not forget, Young himself probably has a point to prove. After injuries and critics, nothing says "I'm back" like returning home and wreaking havoc. Now skeptics are rolling their eyes and saying, "Come on, this sounds too good to be true." And to be fair, in sports, sometimes it is. We've all been burned before by rumors that fizzled into nothing, but this one feels different. And I'll tell you why. The people talking about it aren't the usual click chasers. They're plugged in. Beat writers, respected radio hosts, and former players who still have friends in the building. And the silence from both Washington and Young's current team. That's telling. No denials, no completely false statements, just a tight-lipped avoidance that usually means something's up. Remember, in the NFL, when nobody's saying anything, it's often because everyone's working hard to make it official before it leaks completely. And if that's the case here, the Commanders might be just days, maybe hours away from one of the most emotional homecomings in recent memory. Another thing to keep in mind, the business side. Chase Young is no rookie anymore, which means contracts, cap space, and future draft picks are all part of the equation. If the Commanders are indeed pulling this off, they've either found a way to make the numbers work miraculously, or they're ready to move some serious chess pieces to fit him in. That could mean restructuring deals, letting go of certain veterans, or even making additional trades to free up space. And you better believe Young's camp will want assurances. This isn't just about coming home, it's about making sure he's valued properly. So for all the romanticism of the return to Washington story, there's also a sharp-edged business reality here. If they can balance both, this could be a masterstroke. If they can't, well, the hype could quickly turn into finger-pointing. And what were they thinking headlines? The stakes couldn't be higher. And then there's the fan reaction, which predictably is already at fever pitch. Social media is exploding with old highlight clips, jersey swap edits, and fans screaming "he's back" in all caps. For a fan base that's endured its fair share of heartbreak, off-field drama, on endless rebuilding years, this is pure adrenaline. The return of a player like Young represents hope, pride, and a connection to a time when the team's future looked brighter. You can almost feel the energy through the screen. And that's not something you can buy with marketing campaigns or PR stunts. It's authentic, it's emotional, and it's exactly the kind of thing that can rally a city around its team again. If you're a Commanders fan right now, you're probably trying not to get your hopes too high. But deep down, you're already picturing Chase Young running out of that tunnel in burgundy and gold again. Of course, we can't ignore the potential for drama once the dust settles. Bringing Young back would be a dream for many, but it also raises questions inside the locker room. How does this affect current starters? Who loses snaps? Will there be any friction over leadership roles or playing time? NFL locker rooms are competitive places, and when a star walks back in, it can either galvanize or divide. Plus, Young himself will have to reestablish trust, not just with coaches, but with teammates who've been grinding without him. That said, football players respect talent. And if he comes in hungry, producing, and all about the team, those concerns will fade fast. Still, it's one more layer to this already wild storyline. And you can bet the media will be watching every sideline interaction for hints of tension or signs of a triumphant reunion. And let's not forget the narrative juice this adds to the league as a whole. The NFL thrives on storylines, comebacks, rivalries, redemption arcs. Chase Young returning to Washington checks every single box. The networks will eat this up. Primetime games, sideline interviews, mic'd up segments, you name it. And for opposing teams, this isn't just another player to scheme against. It's a symbol of Washington refusing to fade into the background. Every sack, every celebration, every post-game quote will be magnified under the national spotlight. That's the power of a storyline like this. It turns regular season matchups into must-watch television. And honestly, whether you're a Commanders fan or not, this is the kind of NFL chaos that makes the sport so addictive. 1 minute is just another week. The next, a blockbuster trade rumor has everyone talking, debating, and dreaming. That's the magic of moments like this. So here we are, waiting. The whispers have grown into roars, the sources have multiplied, and the atmosphere feels charged with anticipation. Chase Young's potential return to Washington isn't just a personnel move. It's the kind of sports moment that could define a season, maybe even reshape a franchise's trajectory. If it happens, the Commanders will instantly become one of the most fascinating teams to watch in 2025. And if it falls apart, it'll be one of those what-if legends fans talk about for years. Either way, this rumor has already done something rare. It's united a fan base, drawn national attention, and reminded everyone why we love sports in the first place. Because at its core, it's about hope, about the possibility of something special happening when you least expect it. And right now in Washington, hope is wearing number 99 again. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.